We greet each other all. We're going to recognize all the presence of everyone here. It's a good opportunity that God has given us to be amongst those who are alive today. Like last Sunday, the month of March, this month we had 5 Sundays. So number 3 and number 5. The number 3 is the number of divinity, and number 5 is the number of grace. So God has given us grace for the 3rd month that has just passed, because it's also the first trimester. So it's been 3 months since the year has started. It's a privilege for us, because many people do not have that grace. So clap your hands for yourself, because we reached the first of the year. So it means that God is still continuing with you. Amen. So we will talk about the shepherd of the sheep. We started it 2 weeks ago. He sold the shepherds of the sheep. That Jesus is the shepherd and we are his sheep. Is it possible for us to go back into depth of what we spoke about? So I recommend those that like to follow us through social media. You will see those teachings and it will help you. So last Sunday we saw the testimony of a sheep about his shepherd. That the sheep is talking for the reason of their shepherd. The role that the shepherd is doing in their life. The goodness that the shepherd is doing for their life. And we explained Psalms 23, where David said that the Lord is my shepherd and I will not lack anything. And those that were there, they were truly blessed in that chapter of Psalms 23. And we didn't read it like a repetition, but we went into depth with it verse by verse. And we explained that Psalms is not as of a song, but it's prophetic. Because Psalms 23 is the ending of Psalms 22. Because in Psalms 22, David is speaking about the sufferings of Jesus. The word that Jesus said, my God, why have you abandoned me? Above the cross. It's the beginning of Psalms 22. So we said that David is not just a king or a musician, but he was also a prophet. Because he prophesied about the suffering of Christ. So the psalm that follows Psalms 23 that follows after 22. And we said that Jesus died in Psalms 22. And in Psalms 23, he's become a shepherd. So it was like a benefit of what he done on the cross of those that received him. And we were truly blessed in that Psalms 23. Because the objective of the teaching is for us to know that as a shepherd, as a sheep, your life depends fully on the shepherd. A sheep that does not have a shepherd, their life is exposed and it's in danger. So especially the life of the sheep, it depends on the shepherd. And we also see the work that the shepherd is doing for their sheep. And there's also the relationship between us and God of grace and love.
Amen.
Amen. It was a shepherd that is doing a lot for their sheep. Because we said that sheep are animals that are very fragile. Wherever you see a sheep, it means that there is a shepherd close by. They're not like goats.
Amen.
Amen. Their life is something of beautiness. That's why Jesus took the image of the Lamb, so he can save us. And we saw the attributes of the shepherd. This attribute that God had used from the old covenant to the new covenant. It's a good image that God is taking as a responsible for his children. It's the work that the shepherd does. It's the image of what God does for us who believed him.
Amen.
So today we're going to finish it by the grace of God. It's a great teaching, but we just teach them within 3 weeks in terms of God, what God has put for us. So today we want to conclude in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 25. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 25.
Car vous étiez comme des brebis errantes. Mais maintenant, vous êtes retournés vers le pasteur et le gardien de vos âmes.
For you were like sheep going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls.
Kasisika oyo bozongi epai ya mobateli bate po azobatela moyo na bino. Sasa ni kulingana na anglais.
For you were like a sheep going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls.
Pierre azoko like solution mo kila out.
So Peter is showing us something that is very powerful here.
En fait, ça on va lire la contexte ya.
If you follow the context of this verse, he's giving recommendations to the servants for the servants to be submissive to their person that is working for them. Because at the time there were people who were Christians who became believers, but they were slaves in the social world. And he said that you always have to be submissive to your leaders. It's not just because you become a Christian, but you also have to be submissive to your leaders. Even your leaders may be bad-hearted people, but accept their sufferings because of Christ. It's better for you to suffer because you're doing good rather than doing bad. The suffering is not the suffering of your body or the suffering of injustice of the world. As times it may be your rights, but since you're a slave, in a society life you have no rights. So may you just have a reason to lose that right that you have. Because Christ himself, he suffered a lot for us. He said that also Jesus died a lot for us. That's why that in his wounds you received salvation. He said, from my wounds you are healed. That's in verse 24. So in verse 25 he ends.
errante.
For you were like sheep going astray.
Vous avez le cas là.
So you like sheep who were going astray.
Mais maintenant là,
But now,
vous êtes retourné, ramené vers le pasteur et le gardien de vos âmes.
you have returned to the shepherd and the overseer of your souls.
Dans le français courant.
I would like to read in another French
Français courant,
translation.
vous étiez comme des brebis errantes, mais à présent, vous êtes retournés vers les bergers qui veillent sur vous. Les bergers qui veillent sur vous. C'est mieux aux hommes. Et comment ça? Pourquoi ça va dans là? Comment ça comme ça? Alléluia. C'est bon? Ok, ça c'est bon. Voilà dans 1 Pierre chapitre 2 verset 25.
In 1 Peter 2 verse 25,
Pierre a dit,
Peter says this,
car vous étiez comme des brebis errantes.
for you were like sheep going astray.
Mais après ça,
But now,
vous êtes retournés vers le berger qui veille sur vous.
you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your lives.
Bozalaki,
So you were.
c'est-à-dire que vous êtes.
It means that you're no longer.
Tout à l'heure, maintenant, on va employer la carte ici. Phrase au
So look at the times that they are employing here in these phrases that they are saying.
parce que
Because sometimes you feel like things are coming. Things that you done for us, it had already happened.
C'est dans le passé.
It's the past.
Vous étiez comme des brebis errantes.
He said, for you were like sheep that were going astray.
Vous avez le coup
You were like sheep that were just everywhere. You were. Because right now you are no longer. So you are no longer a sheep that is astray. Because a sheep that is going walking everywhere is a sheep that lacks a shepherd. But you have a shepherd. You're not someone who is going astray. That's why your life is not a life of going astray.